Welcome back, and thank you for joining us. Tonight, we begin a story that has set tabloids ablaze, royal watchers buzzing, and social media exploding with memes. This is not just another celebrity feud. This is a drama that cuts straight through the glittering world of fame and into the heart of the British monarchy. The headline: Sir David Beckham, a global football icon turned cultural ambassador, a man newly knighted by King Charles. And with 4 words, he sent shockwaves across the Atlantic. I don't know her. Polite, amused, final. Those words, whispered in private yet repeated with relish in elite circles, have become the defining soundbite of 2025. They were aimed at Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, who extended an olive branch, or perhaps a Hollywood contract, only to see it brushed aside. The offer? A guest slot in her latest Netflix production, a lifestyle series built on cozy chats and carefully curated moments. The response? A rejection that spoke volumes. Because this was not simply about one episode of television. It was a statement, a line in the sand, a declaration of loyalty. And at its center stood Princess Catherine, the future queen, the quiet yet unshakable heart of the royal family. Let us rewind. David Beckham is no stranger to royal circles. From his early days as captain of England, to his global stardom with Manchester United and Real Madrid, Beckham has always carried the aura of Britain's favorite son. Endorsements, fashion, philanthropy, his name grew beyond sport. But through it all, his ties to the monarchy ran deeper than surface appearances. Charity galas with Prince William in the early 2000s. Front row seats at the wedding of the century in 2011, when William and Catherine tied the knot. Animated conversations with the groom. Shared experiences under pressure. Mutual respect forged in the spotlight. These were not casual encounters. They were the threads of a long-standing relationship. And Catherine, always the steady figure, always the quiet favorite. Her poise, her resilience, her ability to balance duty with dignity, these qualities struck a chord with Beckham. Insiders recall that admiration deepened in 2024 when he visited her privately in hospital during her health struggles. No cameras, no headlines, just loyalty, just friendship. Contrast this with Meghan Markle's trajectory. In 2017, the Beckhams extended the hand of friendship. Invitations, dinners, even whispers of Victoria, offering style guidance. But by 2018, the cracks were visible. Rumors of leaked stories. Accusations that David was feeding the press. Accusations he flatly denied, but never forgave. The fallout was swift. David and Victoria attended Harry and Meghan's wedding ceremony, but not the exclusive reception. They were out. The tension simmered for years. David, building his empire, producing a Netflix documentary in 2023 that captivated audiences worldwide. Meghan and Harry, releasing their own series to lukewarm reviews, critics questioning authenticity. And then came the jam wars of 2025. Meghan launched her As Ever brand with artisanal strawberry jam. David responded with a cheeky video of Beck Jam, a plum preserve narrated by Victoria with playful wit. Social media devoured it. Authentic, funny, British. Meghan's product, in contrast, was called polished but hollow. So when an invitation arrived from Archwell Productions in early 2025, Beckham hesitated. The offer was polite, the pitch appealing. Share your story, your legacy, your family life. It seemed like a bridge across old wounds. Meghan needed him, his star power, his reputation, his global reach. But David paused. And in that pause was years of quiet calculation. Friends recall him musing at dinner. Why now? Why reach out after years of silence, suspicion, and scars? Why, after the cold shoulders, the absent invites, the whispers of betrayal? His advisors suggested it might soften the feud, win goodwill, even expand his American base. But Beckham's instincts said otherwise. He had bigger priorities. A knighthood was looming. His loyalty to the monarchy was clear, and his trust in the Sussexes had long since evaporated. The official reply was measured. Thank you for the kind offer, but schedules do not align. Behind the scenes, the truth was sharper. With a laugh, he dismissed the proposal. I don't know her. Not cruel, not bitter, just detached. A clean break, and as fate would have it, the timing could not have been more symbolic. Weeks later, King Charles named him Sir David Beckham in the birthday honors of June 2025. Recognition not just for goals scored, but for decades of philanthropy, UNICEF campaigns, and tireless advocacy. One chapter closed, another opened. And at the heart of this new era was not Meghan Markle, chasing relevancy with streaming deals. It was Princess Catherine, whose quiet strength had won Beckham's loyalty, and whose future now gleamed brighter than ever. The stage was set, lines were drawn, and the battle of narratives, Hollywood ambition versus royal resilience, was only beginning. But what happens when a snub becomes a manifesto? When a simple laugh turns into a declaration of allegiance? And when one woman's faltering brand is eclipsed by another's rising star? That's where this story takes us next. Stay with us. To understand why David Beckham chose loyalty to the monarchy over Hollywood allure, we need to go back to the moments that cemented him not just as a football legend, but as a trusted friend of the crown. David Beckham's bond with the royal family was never built on fleeting appearances. It was forged over decades, through public duty and private gestures. In the early 2000s, Beckham was more than a footballer. He was a cultural phenomenon, dazzling on the field with Manchester United, later Real Madrid, and becoming the face of global campaigns. He was Britain's export to the world, yet even as endorsements stacked and fame soared, Beckham maintained a rooted identity. He was English, he was loyal, and he gravitated toward those who embodied duty and service. Enter Prince William. Charity galas, youth initiatives, football matches, these were settings where William and David often crossed paths. Insiders recall conversations where the two men shared insights on leadership under pressure. William balancing monarchy and family, David balancing celebrity and fatherhood. It was more than small talk, it was mutual recognition. By 2011, that bond was on full display. The wedding of the decade, William and Catherine. Guests of honor from every corner of the globe filled Westminster Abbey. Among them, David and Victoria Beckham. Not just celebrities in attendance, but friends whose presence symbolized respect. Beckham, suited and polished, was seen chatting animatedly with William. Those close to the couple noted the natural ease, football royalty, and future king, connecting as peers. But the real story was not William. It was Catherine. From the start, Beckham admired her poise. She was not dramatic. She was not seeking headlines. She embodied the very qualities David respected: grace, stability, quiet strength. For Beckham, who had spent decades under the glare of flashbulbs, Catherine's steadiness was magnetic. That respect became loyalty in 2024. Catherine faced a health crisis, her absence sparking concern across the nation. While headlines swirled, David made a quiet trip to the hospital. No paparazzi, no fanfare, just a friend checking on a friend. It was the kind of gesture that never needed a press release. And when details later emerged, it only reinforced the image. Beckham stood with Catherine, always. Contrast this with Meghan Markle's narrative. In 2017, when she first entered the royal fold, the Beckhams opened doors, dinners, support, even whispers of Victoria, offering styling tips. For a moment, it looked like a friendship in the making. But trust is fragile, and in 2018, it shattered. Rumors swirled that Beckham was leaking stories to the press. Meghan and Harry, protective and suspicious, pointed fingers. David denied it, but the damage was done. By the time of the Sussex wedding, the chill was visible. The Beckhams were invited to the ceremony but excluded from the private reception. A clear signal. Once welcomed, now sidelined. The years that followed only deepened the divide. Harry and Meghan's docuseries struggled for credibility. Beckham's documentary, released in 2023, soared to global acclaim, winning awards and critical praise. The comparison was unavoidable. Authentic versus contrived, loyalty versus reinvention. And then came 2025's Jam Saga. Meghan's As Ever brand launched with strawberry preserves as its centerpiece, a symbol of homegrown simplicity. The reception was lukewarm. Then Beckham struck. Beck Jam, a playful video featuring plum jam, Victoria's voice dripping with wit, and David's effortless authenticity. The internet erupted. Memes flew. Fans devoured the contrast. Where Meghan was seen as overproduced, David came off as authentic, relatable, fun. It wasn't just a meme war, it was a cultural referendum. The people had chosen their side, and Catherine's star shone brighter by association. As Meghan's ventures faltered, Catherine embodied the opposite. She was steady. She was dignified. She was beloved. And crucially, she had allies like Beckham, public figures who stood by her not for clout, but out of genuine respect. For Meghan, every misstep seemed amplified. A failed product, a cold reception, a show without star power. For Catherine, every appearance was celebrated. Every initiative, particularly her work on early childhood development, was met with admiration. Beckham aligned himself with the winning narrative, the enduring legacy. This was not coincidence. This was calculation. Because in the world of royalty and celebrity, alignment matters. And Beckham had made his choice. He He was with Catherine, he was with tradition, he was with the monarchy, and with his knighthood on the horizon, that loyalty was about to be rewarded, not just with titles, but with symbolism. The story was no longer just David versus Meghan. It was a clash of values. Hollywood ambition versus royal resilience. Flash versus substance. Noise versus legacy. And in that clash, Catherine was emerging as the victor. But how would Beckham's rejection of Meghan echo once his knighthood was confirmed? How would his presence beside Catherine, polished pin gleaming, reshape the celebrity royal dynamic? That answer was coming, and the stage was already set. The laughter may have been private, but the consequences were public. As the weeks rolled on, David Beckham's quiet dismissal of Meghan Markle's invitation turned into something larger. It became a cultural marker, a defining moment in the balance of loyalty, fame, and power. The timing could not have been more perfect. In June 2025, King Charles announced the birthday honors, and there it was, Sir David Beckham. The honor had been years in the making. Beckham had received his OBE back in 2003. Fans had long speculated when the full knighthood would arrive. For years, whispers of tax controversies delayed the inevitable. But now, at 50 years old, the moment had come. Recognition not just for goals scored or trophies lifted, but for decades of service. To sport, to charity, to Britain's image abroad. The palace's statement was crisp. Beckham's contributions to UNICEF, his campaigns for malaria prevention, his initiatives for children's education, leadership on and off the pitch, inspirational, admirable, worthy. When the announcement hit, fans erupted. Social media trended Sir David within minutes. Headlines across Europe and beyond celebrated the honor. Even skeptics, once quick to mock his celebrity lifestyle, conceded his post-football career had been one of consistency and impact. But beneath the applause was another layer. The rejection of Meghan was still echoing. Tabloids juxtaposed the two stories. On one side, Meghan struggling to fill guest slots for her new show, insiders whispering of casting difficulties. On the other side, Beckham crowned a knight, his brand burnished by royal approval. It was contrast at its sharpest. While Meghan was still trying to build her American empire, Beckham was doubling down on heritage, tradition, authenticity. And with his knighthood, he now had the official seal. Not just fame, not just popularity, a title, a legacy. The ceremony itself was elegant, understated. Beckham knelt before the king, tailored suit immaculate, expression humbled yet proud. Cameras captured the moment. One man, one monarch, one sword resting lightly on his shoulder. The cheers outside Buckingham Palace said the rest. And then came the real signal. Beckham's first major appearance as Sir David. It was not at a Hollywood event, not at a fashion gala, not even at one of his football ventures. It was at a charity gala for children's health, tied closely to Catherine's early years initiatives. That choice mattered. The guest list was royal heavy, the agenda focused on service, not spectacle. Beckham's new title gleamed on the invitations, the seating charts, the announcements. And in his speech, he emphasized grace under pressure, honoring those who dedicate their lives to children. Observers noted the subtle message, a salute to Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Insiders whispered that Catherine, radiant after her recovery, was deeply moved. David's presence was not just symbolic, it was solidarity. His knighthood was not for personal glory. It was a tool he immediately used to align himself with the monarchy's future. With her and Meghan, absent from the scene, absent from the narrative, her Netflix pitch had missed the mark, her lifestyle brand still searching for footing. The memes from the I Don't Know Her episode had not faded. They had crystallized into a story. Beckham belonged to the royals, Meghan did not. The snub was no longer about an email. Invitation declined. It had become a declaration of values. Beckham choosing the crown over California, Catherine over Meghan, service over self-promotion. And as the summer unfolded, that declaration would only grow louder. The next chapter would play out not in grand halls but in gardens, not in Hollywood lights, but under Windsor skies. Because soon after the knighthood, Sir David Beckham stepped into Catherine's world in a way that made headlines and sealed loyalties. And when he did, the contrast between two women, one celebrated as the heart of the family, the other struggling for relevance, was sharper than ever. The knighthood was still fresh when the next chapter unfolded. July 2025, Windsor, a garden party hosted by the Royal Foundation for Early Childhood Development, one of Princess Catherine's most passionate causes. The invitations carried weight. This was not a glittering celebrity event. This was about service, about building the future, about children. Yet when guests arrived, One name stood out in bold: Sir David Beckham. His new title was not hidden in fine print. It was displayed proudly, his place at the table secured not by football fame, but by recognition from the crown. David and Victoria Beckham arrived as a unit, understated but unmistakable. He carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man at peace. She, elegant as ever, drew attention for her fashion, echoing Catherine's polished style, a deliberate harmony that did not go unnoticed. And then there was Catherine herself, fresh from recovery, radiant in the summer light, stepping into her role with renewed strength. The cameras captured the exchange between her and Beckham. Smiles, warm words, a bond that required no exaggeration. Observers saw solidarity, respect, loyalty. During the event, David spoke to patrons, sharing his admiration for Catherine's work. He called her the heart of the family, words that rippled far beyond the garden, not scripted, not staged, a genuine tribute from a man whose own family values were central to his brand. He later posted a photo from the event with a simple caption, "Honored to support causes close to home, grateful for leaders like those shaping tomorrow." For his millions of followers, the message was clear. This was not about Hollywood appearances. This was about heritage, about service, about standing with the monarchy's future queen. The public read between the lines. It was a salute to Catherine, and a contrast to Meghan, because while Catherine stood at the heart of national admiration, Meghan was faltering. Her Netflix project, once pitched as a warm, relatable lifestyle series, struggled for traction. Rumors of casting woes swirled. Without Beckham, the star power dimmed. Reviews questioned its authenticity. Industry reports whispered of underwhelming viewership. Social media, always quick to pounce, drew comparisons. Catherine, strong and graceful, backed by Beckham's loyalty. Meghan, still chasing relevance, overshadowed by rejection. The narrative was writing itself. And Victoria Beckham played her part too. At the garden party, her styling choices echoed Catherine's elegance. It was subtle but effective, fashion as alliance. A visual confirmation that the Beckhams had chosen their side. Inside the event, the mood was buoyant. Funds were raised, spirits were lifted. Catherine's presence was celebrated. Beckham's support was noted. Attendees described the energy as hopeful, grounded, united. And in the midst of it all, Meghan was absent, not just physically, symbolically. For royal watchers, this was a turning point. Beckham had not just been knighted, he had put that honor to work. He had used it to stand beside Catherine, amplifying her strength, reinforcing her role, and distancing himself from the noise of Hollywood. This was not about headlines. This was about values. And Beckham's choice was unmistakable. Family, service, tradition. Meghan, once seen as the fresh face of modern royalty, now looked isolated, outpaced, diminished. The garden party was not just a pleasant summer event. It was a stage where allegiances were displayed, loyalties confirmed, and futures hinted at. Beckham's knighthood was no private triumph. It was a public declaration. And by aligning himself so visibly with Catherine, he made the message loud and clear. The world had seen the laugh, the snub, the knight. Now it had seen the alliance. But what happens when a single alliance reshapes the balance between celebrity and royalty? When the Beckham's loyalty becomes a shield for Catherine, and Meghan finds herself further sidelined? That question would echo in the weeks ahead, as old wounds resurfaced and the deeper history of betrayal and suspicion returned to the spotlight. The feud did not begin with a laugh. It began with a whisper. The year was 2017. Meghan Markle had just entered the royal stage. Bright, glamorous, the Hollywood actress stepping into Windsor life. To ease the transition, the Beckhams extended their hand. Invitations to dinners, introductions to London circles, even whispers that Victoria offered styling tips. For a brief moment, it seemed like a modern alliance was forming. Celebrity power meeting royal novelty. But behind closed doors, trust cracked early. By 2018, stories began leaking to the press. Private details about the Sussex household, rumors too specific to be coincidence. Meghan and Harry looked outward for culprits. And according to multiple insiders, suspicion landed on David Beckham. He was blindsided. He was furious. To be accused of feeding tabloids, the very same press that hounded his family for decades, cut deep. The damage was swift. The Beckhams were invited to Harry and Meghan's wedding ceremony in Windsor, but pointedly excluded from the private reception. A symbolic freeze, once welcomed, now sidelined. For David, the message was clear. Trust had evaporated. From there, the distance only grew. By 2019, Beckham focused squarely on his brand, football ventures, fashion, global charity. The Sussexes turned to their own media projects. Then came 2020, the royal split. Harry and Meghan moved to California, carving their path as independent celebrities. The Beckhams stayed firmly rooted in Britain, their ties to William and Catherine only strengthening. The rivalry sharpened in 2023. Beckham's Netflix documentary exploded onto screens worldwide. Raw, authentic, nostalgic, it earned rave reviews and record audiences. The Sussexes, meanwhile, released their own series. Critics called it staged, shallow, too polished to be believed. The contrast was brutal. Beckham was praised for authenticity. Harry and Meghan were panned for inauthenticity. The feud had shifted from whispers to open comparison. Then came the jam wars of 2025. Meghan launched as ever, with strawberry preserves as a centerpiece. Carefully marketed, photographed, promoted as a symbol of simple living. Within days, David countered with Beck Jam, a tongue-in-cheek video featuring his own plum jam, narrated by Victoria with playful wit. Fans adored it. Memes flooded the internet. Authentic versus aspirational. Beckham's video was fun, effortless, British. Meghan's brand was polished, curated, corporate. It was not just food, it was symbolism. Beckham's authenticity was winning. Meghan's reinvention was faltering. And then came Brooklyn Beckham, David's eldest son, spotted dining with Harry and Meghan in Los Angeles earlier in 2025. A small dinner, a fleeting headline. But inside the Beckham household, it was seen as a complication. Victoria disapproved. David remained diplomatic. But it revealed how the feud had rippled across generations. Even the children were being pulled into the divide. Still, the decisive moment came with the invitation. Early 2025, Archewell Productions reached out to Beckham with a proposal. Appear on Meghan's new Netflix series. Share his story of family and fame. Bridge old wounds, rebuild ties. On paper, it looked attractive. But behind the scenes, David hesitated. Friends recall him asking aloud, "Why now? Why, after years of suspicion and cold shoulders, would Meghan suddenly extend an invitation? Was it about friendship? Or was it about star power?" The context mattered. Harry's memoir had reignited royal controversies. Meghan's ventures were struggling for traction. Their brand needed validation. Beckham, meanwhile, was soaring. His documentary had triumphed. His ventures were secure. His knighthood was imminent. In private, his advisors warned of risks. Declining could spark backlash. Accepting could heal wounds. But Beckham knew. This was not about reconciliation. This was about being used. And he would not play that role. So the answer was no. Polite in writing, firm in private. And with a laugh, he dismissed it altogether. "I don't know her." Those 4 words, repeated in whispers across elite circles, became the mic drop of the feud. Not angry, not cruel, simply final. A signal that the chapter was closed. For Meghan, insiders say the rejection stung. She had counted on Beckham's global appeal to boost her show. Without him, the series lacked sparkle. Casting struggles intensified. Ratings expectations dipped. Public perception hardened. Meghan was reaching, Beckham was refusing. For David, the timing was perfect. Weeks after declining, the knighthood arrived. Sir David Beckham, honored by King Charles, celebrated by the nation. It was as if the crown itself had endorsed his decision. The feud was no longer a private rift. It had become a public contrast. Beckham with the royals, Meghan without. And Catherine? She was the quiet victor. Every move Beckham made, hospital visits, public praise, foundation events, aligned him closer to her. Every snub of Meghan reinforced Catherine's position as the monarchy's future, the symbol of grace and resilience. Beckham's loyalty was not random, it was deliberate. Catherine represented the values he admired: service, dignity, authenticity. Meghan represented the opposite: ambition, reinvention, spectacle. The feud had traveled a long road, from dinners in 2017 to suspicions in 2018, to documentaries in 2023, to jam wars in 2025. And now, with a knighthood and a public alliance, Beckham had made his choice clear. He chose Catherine. He chose tradition. He chose the crown. And Meghan? For all the ambition, all the reinvention, she found herself on the outside. Once imagined as the modern face of royalty, she was now cast as the Hollywood outsider. Once considered a potential ally of the Beckhams, she was now the punchline of a single, dismissive phrase. "I don't know her." The feud, revisited and resolved, left no doubt. Beckham's allegiance was royal, Meghan's relevance was fading. But as the dust settled, a larger question emerged. What does this feud say about the future of celebrity-royal relations? And more importantly, what does it mean for Catherine's rising star? now illuminated by Beckham's unwavering support. The answer lies in the final act, where celebrity and monarchy converge into a new blueprint for loyalty, legacy, and power. The story was no longer just about a laugh, a snub, or even a knighthood. It had become something bigger, a new blueprint for how celebrity and royalty coexist in the modern age. And at the center of it stood two women, one rising, one fading. On one side, Princess Catherine, graceful, steady, resilient, fresh from personal battles yet stronger than ever. Her initiatives on early childhood development resonated with families across Britain and beyond. She did not chase headlines. Headlines came to her. She did not demand loyalty. Loyalty was freely given. In Catherine, the public saw continuity and hope, a future queen embodying both tradition and modernity. On the other side, Meghan Markle. Once hailed as the fresh face of a modern monarchy, she was now orbiting on the periphery. The Netflix ventures, marketed with fanfare, stumbled under the weight of skepticism. The lifestyle brand struggled to find its footing. The once sympathetic narrative of reinvention was increasingly read as reinvention without roots. The contrast could not be sharper. And then came David Beckham, not just a footballer, not just a global celebrity, now a knight, Sir David Beckham. His trajectory symbolized something Meghan could not replicate: authenticity rooted in loyalty. He did not need Hollywood validation. He did not need streaming deals. He had a crown's approval, the people's admiration, and Catherine's gratitude. When Beckham stood beside Catherine at the Windsor garden party, the symbolism was undeniable. This was not a celebrity chasing relevance. This was a knight affirming allegiance. His words, calling Catherine the heart of the family, carried more weight than any headline. In a world of spin and spectacle, authenticity spoke louder. The public responded. Memes and hashtags hailed Beckham as the people's knight. Commentators contrasted his grounded humility with Meghan's perceived ambition. Polls showed rising approval for Catherine's initiatives, boosted by Beckham's visible support. Industry insiders admitted, reluctantly, that Meghan's projects had lost momentum. The feud had tilted decisively. But this was not just about individuals. It was about a shift in the cultural landscape. For decades, celebrities hovered around the monarchy, chasing proximity to royal glamour. The equation was simple: royal clout elevated celebrity status. But Beckham reversed the formula. He showed that celebrities could amplify the monarchy, not exploit it. By aligning with Catherine, he reinforced her standing. By rejecting Meghan, he drew a line between authenticity and opportunism. The lesson was clear. In a world oversaturated with celebrity branding, what endures is not noise but loyalty, not reinvention but legacy, not Hollywood scripts but royal service. And Catherine understood this better than anyone. She had never tried to outshine. She had simply endured, gracefully. When challenges struck, she persevered. When doubts circled, she remained dignified. That quiet resilience made her not just respected, but beloved. Beckham's support did not create her popularity, it magnified it. Together, they symbolized a model of modern British pride, a princess of substance and a knight of loyalty. Meanwhile, Meghan's trajectory seemed caught in a loop of reinvention. Each pivot, from royal duties to California life to media ventures, was framed as a new chapter. But without anchors, reinvention looked like drift. Without allies, it looked like isolation. The rejection by Beckham was not just personal, it was emblematic, a sign that even those once close had moved on, aligning with the steadier, more enduring figure of Catherine. The clash of narratives was complete. Meghan's Hollywood sparkle had dimmed, Catherine's quiet star had risen, and Beckham had chosen which one to orbit. For royal watchers, the implications were profound. Celebrity allegiance was no longer about chasing drama. It was about aligning with values. And the values Catherine represented, grace, family, service, were precisely what Beckham embodied after decades in the spotlight. In the end, it was not Meghan's words or Catherine's speeches that defined the moment. It was Beckham's laugh, his refusal, his knighthood, and his presence beside Catherine. A sequence of choices that together wrote a manifesto for the future. A future where loyalty matters more than headlines. Where authenticity matters more than spectacle. Where the monarchy, embodied in Catherine, can still outshine Hollywood glamour. As summer 2025 drew to a close, the verdict was written in plain sight. Catherine was the victor, Meghan was the footnote, and Beckham, the people's knight, was the bridge, proving that when the crown and celebrity align, tradition does not weaken, it strengthens. But as always with royalty, the story never truly ends. It evolves. The alliances of today shape the headlines of tomorrow. And while Catherine's star rises and Meghan's fades, The world watches with anticipation. Because in the kingdom of fame and power, the next twist is always waiting. The question remains, who will stand with the crown in the next chapter, and who will be left outside the gates? Stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in today. Share your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you in the next update.